I get a lot of questions about bone density. This is because my first invention, which can be found at OsteoStrong locations, is a medical device that puts axial, this is the axis of a bone, compression. So end-to-end compression on bone. This stimulates the bone to deform slightly. When the bone deforms, if you ever look at the inside of a bone or a picture of the inside of a bone, it looks like a honeycomb. There's all sorts of little walls. And as those walls bend and become distorted, they're stimulated to pull in minerals and recalcify, building more little walls in between the nuclei of the cells, increasing the density of bone. There's a lot of myths in this space. Many people say all you need to do is exercise. Well, here's the problem. The minimum dose response for the hip joint, and that is the most important place for bone density. We track spinal bone density and hip bone density typically in the health measurements, DEXA scans. That's the sort of standard of care. When tracking those things, the hip matters much more because hip fractures are associated with mortality. So the statistic is you have a 50% chance of death within 1 year of a hip fracture after the age of 50. 50% chance after the age of 50. I know that sounds crazy. Now, how do these people die? They break their hip. That doesn't sound like a life-threatening thing. The problem is they break their hip, they go to the hospital, they can't recover because it needs a lot of body resources to rebuild that. And also, some of the time the bone shatters instead of a clean break. And a lot of that has to do with bisphosphonate drugs. There's a whole classification of drugs that are supposed to protect you from fragility fracture, but if you do have a fracture, the fractures are real bad. When this happens, you can't heal because there's too many pieces. The doctors can't screw them all back in. Sometimes there's a mesh that goes around the bone. Keep in mind, to do this surgery, they got to rip all the muscle away from the bone to get at it and to put everything back in place. You really do not want a fragility fracture. So how do you build bone density? Now, there are a number of OsteoStrong centers. That's the ultimate because that's a machine that uses robotic arms to put you in exactly the right position so that you're just short of lockout. 120-degree angle, same thing with the legs, but it's easier for me to demonstrate with my arm here. So you're contracting in a very small range of motion to try and load these bones, the radius, the ulna, the humerus, all the way through the clavicle, all the upper extremities. That's one of the 4 movements. Gives you incredible loading. Now, if you don't have access to this, there are a number of things you can do. So if you're deconditioned, let's say you couldn't just get up and jog. You don't have the coordination for that. You haven't been athletic in a long time. What I want you to do is focus on heel drops. So what you do is you stand on your toes and drop down. And you're getting some level of loading. Now, every time my heel hits, my whole body needs to rebalance itself. So my obliques are firing, my quadratus muscles are firing, my abs are firing, my spinal erectors are firing. All of these muscles are firing to stabilize me, and that's going to make me better at more challenging ways of loading the body. Like if I, instead of just heel dropping, I actually want to jump. I toe strike when I land, as we all are supposed to. Now, over time, you build your way to a plyometric jump. So something more like this. Now, when you jump like that, you can actually get to the, and this is the important part, minimum dose response. As in, the minimum amount of loading that's required to stimulate growth in the hip joint. This is 4.2 multiples of body weight. So for those of you who are still thinking, oh yeah, I'm getting that in the gym or I'm getting that with X3, no, you're not. One of my really good buddies, Matt Wenning, held the world record in the squat for the super heavyweight division. So he's a 300-pound guy and he did a 1,200-pound squat. That's 4 multiples. So the world record squat doesn't even hit the minimum for bone density growth. However, in high impact, as we see with gymnastics research, you can get to 7, 8, even 10 times your body weight from impact. So don't be afraid of impact. You want to select the level of impact that is appropriate for your level of conditioning. So like I said, start with heel drops. If you have a balance problem, you can grab a chair. And if you want to do heel drops, you can just, like put your fingers on the front of a chair and drop like that. Or even you're jumping. If you put a chair right in front of you, you lose your balance, you can always grab a hold of the chair. So please ask questions in the comment section. I want to make sure that all the way from athletic people who want higher bone density because they want an athletic advantage, or deconditioned people who haven't exercised in a long time, ask the questions. I want to keep this video series going on bone density so I can help as much as I possibly can with anyone who's compromised.